I mean, what it took for me to come out and actually talk about this is something that is requiring a lot of courage on my part. It hit me, it hurt me. So I want to talk about this. But to throw shade and shame to somebody who is here to bring awareness and to help people release the shame that is associated with experiencing the world differently, I thought was just like effed up and upsetting. If there's 66 million of us in the United States, is it still a disorder? Let's really consider this. If we were all level 1 autistic, if all HSPs are level 1 autistic, is it still a disorder when there's 30% of the population that have this trait and has a really hard time functioning in this world? Maybe there's a disorder in society and not in 30% of the population. You know, the point is that whatever label we put on it, it doesn't change our experience of the world. Our experience is difficult, not because we are difficult or malfunctioning or whatever it is, but simply because there is a disconnect with this society and its members. We are constituents, and it's just time that more people realize it and that society changes instead of boxing people that are different. Hey, beautiful. How are you doing today? So I'm coming today in a little bit of a different kind of energy, a different kind of mood. I'm a little bit miffed. I am a little bit upset by something that happened. So if you're in the world of the HSP, of the highly sensitive person, and you're listening to things, you might have come across the idea that there seems to be an overlap between autism and highly sensitive people. And I have gotten a few comments here and there of people saying, well, you're not a HSP, you're really just autistic, or autistics are just really HSP people. And something happened a few days ago that really kind of brought this to a level that I want to share because it hit me, it hurt me. So I want to talk about this. I may not be completely organized in my thoughts. I have a bunch of notes down here, but they're kind of all over the place a little bit, but I want to talk about this. So what happened is a few days ago, as I'm finishing my book, I had just finished the back cover after many, many iterations, and I emailed it to a friend named Diane, but I accidentally sent it to the wrong Diane. And what I received as a reply was a link to a Facebook post that called. So before I say that, I should say that in my back cover, I talk about the fact that I'm a highly sensitive person and that I've lived with chronic illness. So the only thing that I received back in the email reply was a link to a Facebook post about somebody trying to do the best they could, but kind of ranting against people who call themselves HSPs, because we are doing a disservice to the autistic community. And in that article, the person uses words like, hang on a second, like we're offering HSP as a fluffy alternative to autism, that it is the label for the privileged, that it's ableism, that there is ignorance. Other words were disservice, denial, injustice, romanticized concept. So what really got me upset is that here you have somebody working her ass off to bring awareness to people who experience life differently, and I choose to use the label, the designation of highly sensitive person, and being what I felt was shamed. First of all, the article totally shames people who describe HSP as a spiritual gift and the likes of something that is a wonderful gift in the world. And I'm not saying there are other gifts, but I am also not denying how hard and isolating and painful and traumatic it is to live as a highly sensitive person. But anyway, by getting an email reply with only a link, and it's somebody that I've known years ago, so she knew who it was coming from, but not a note saying congratulations on having a book coming out, or wonderful that this is coming out, but here I found another perspective, maybe something you'd like to hear or read about so that you have a different view and that maybe you can modify the way you talk about highly sensitive people. I mean, that would have been great, but to throw shade and shame to somebody who is here to bring awareness and to help people release the shame that is associated with experiencing the world differently, I thought was just like effed up and upsetting. And I can understand her point of view, which is why, in my view, it's like, let's talk about these things and not shame and say that anybody who is taking a certain point of view and still bringing awareness to the same people who experience the world differently, missed my point. So part of what was upsetting to that person was that the definition by Dr. Elaine Aron, who coined the term highly sensitive person back in the 90s, as not being a disorder, but being a trait, being part of the temperament we are born with, and simply a different way that our nervous system and perception of stimuli is processed in our bodies. And by not calling it a disorder, and autism being called a disorder, you are on the spectrum of autism, she felt that we were diminishing the disorder and the need for help and support that the autistic community people need. And the thing is that I believe highly sensitive people also need support and more acknowledgement and awareness, because we are in a society that simply does not accept, welcome, support anything that is different. But I'll say this, since highly sensitive people, and let's include autistic people in that, we represent, now it goes between 20 and 30% of the population. Well, if you take 20% of the US population, that is 66 million people. So my idea is, first of all, maybe if there's so many people who are like that, is the better thing to make 66 million people believe that it's a disorder, or to say to society and to this system, look, this is 66 million people. It is not a disorder. It is time that you pay attention to these people, because they are part of society and they have a place. And they should not considered marginal because they have a disorder, but simply have a society that will start to adapt so that these people have room to blossom and to expand and to bring who they are to this society, this life that has actually created them. There's a reason why life created tall people and short people, and people who are less sensitive and people who are more sensitive. And men and women and everything that is different. And if we keep calling it a disorder, and again, I don't want to be told autism is a disorder and now I'm doing more disservice to the cause. First of all, there's a spectrum to autism. I think that the overlap that we're talking about is between what is called level 1 autistic and highly sensitive people. And honestly, there is so much overlap that when I listen to these videos or read these articles or 15 things that show that you are probably an autistic person, I'm 14 out of 15. So there's a good chance that if I were diagnosed, I would be an autistic person. And in a way, okay, and don't jump on me for this, but in a way, it would kind of make my life easier, And this is what I mean. It's like when society didn't know about dyslexia, and coincidentally is about 20% of the population, and people who had dyslexia, which is just a different way that the brain perceives things that are written, I think. I don't know the details. But once the awareness was out that dyslexia was a trait, a way that certain brains are made, then all the people who experience that and who are now experiencing that, they can be determined as dyslexic or diagnosed, if you will, and then they stop being shamed for simply how they are physiologically. So when I say that in a way it would make my life easier to get a diagnosis, it's because, like, for people around me, some of them that I still try to explain what it is to live as a highly sensitive person, a lot of the response I get is like, just like this silence, or, yeah, I know you're highly sensitive, but how about you do this? How about you adapt? We all make an effort, blah, 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 blah. So if I was coming out and saying, hey, I am autistic, they would go, oh, you're autistic. Now I understand. Would you like to explain to me more? I'm curious. What is it like living as an autistic person? Because autism is recognized as a thing. And I guess we're in a society where only once it's designated as a disorder does society pay attention, because in a way I think it's less threatening, right? Those people have a disorder, they are diseased, therefore we can, put them in this little bubble and say, these are these people. And then it's not the same as saying, these 66 million people are among us, and we never realized that they're just different, but they're equal. They don't have a disorder. So anyway, something else that was brought up was that a lot of people with autism that this person was talking about in her article was that, I think the right word is level 1 autistic. They just don't look autistic, because most of us have this old image of an autistic person as somebody that is obviously, when you look at them, you can see the signs and you can say they're autistic. And she was saying that it's more of a disservice that I'm doing, and all the people glorifying HSP as a privilege, that it takes away, because people who are autistic are accused of, hey, you don't even look autistic. Don't tell me you're autistic. You're only highly sensitive. Well, I'm not sure how relevant it is, but it is in my heart and in my mind. But I know about this. I know about this not only for being a autistic, for being a highly sensitive person, but also because I've lived with chronic illness from the time I was 11 years old. And I got used to hiding it really, really, really well. And in the autism community, they call this masking, I guess, which is adapt your behavior so that people cannot tell that you're different. And I almost died a few times. I was extremely sick, couldn't walk, whatever. But all these things that were happening to me when I couldn't get out of bed for days, or couldn't feed myself or whatever, and didn't have any more strength to be able to stand up, I did these things behind closed doors. And when I showed up in the world, I was this artist, this art director, and it was like, yay, go, another opening for my art, another exhibition, sure, here I am, let me sign autographs, I'm fine. And nowadays in some of my videos, when I say I live with chronic illness, well, I've gotten some comments that say, you don't even look sick, so what are you complaining about? So anyway, this is something else to be addressed, and that we should just freaking hold judgment on people who live through things that are different and maybe don't fit the image that we have of what a person who is autistic, highly sensitive, living with chronic illness should look like. Let's believe them when we tell them something. And I wanted to add something, because I have a friend whose daughter is highly sensitive. And it's one of the states, is it? Yeah, I might make a mistake. Is it Wisconsin? Perhaps. There are actually government programs that are designed to help people who are highly sensitive people. So all of us who are talking about highly sensitive person, it is actually having a positive impact at the society level who is beginning to take notice. And some places, they are actually beginning to act on it and give some support. So I may repeat myself here, but here are a few points. So how about we consider that highly sensitive people include autistic people, neurodivergent. There's other words I want to say and I forget them right now. But how about we all say, okay, we are all highly sensitive people. And right now, this society has to awaken to this. And the more people that talk about it, let's just let them do that, and that it is all part of the awareness. And certainly, let's not shame anybody for telling them that they don't get it, that they're doing it wrong, and just dismiss and denigrate the work that they're doing. Doing this for me and writing my book is huge. I mean, what it took for me to come out and actually talk about this and talk about chronic illness is something that is requiring a lot of courage on my part. And that should always be supported, if not rewarded. And again, if there's 66 million of us in the United States, is it still a disorder? Let's really consider this. If we were all level 1 autistic, if all HSPs are level 1 autistic, is it still a disorder when there's 30% of the population that have this trait and see the world and perceives it and processes it that way and has a really hard time functioning in this world? Maybe there's a disorder in society and not in 30% of the population. You know, the point is that whatever label we put on it, it doesn't change our experience of the world. Our experience is difficult, not because we are difficult or malfunctioning or whatever it is, but simply because there is a disconnect with this society and its members. We are constituents, and constituents, whether it's the differences like being a different race or different gender, living in rural communities or cities or the different states or whatever, we are all different. Government is adapting to all these differences because there is no uniformity to a population. There's no uniformity in a family. There's no uniformity in a city. There's no uniformity in a country. There's no uniformity on the planet. We are diverse in every way. And it's just time that more people realize it and that society changes instead of boxing people that are different. Okay. So that's my talk for today. Little bit of a different tone. I have no idea how this is going to come across. But I was a little bit triggered, as you can tell, by this email. I could, even if it's a couple of days ago, it was very easy for me to get back into my trigger. But anyway, let's just be tolerant. Let's just support anyone who is courageously trying to bring awareness to anything that needs awareness brought to. I love you. All of you sensitive people, all of you autistic people, maybe I am one of you. I don't really care what name I put on it. I know my experience is a lot like your experience. And this is what I want to do here. I just want to bring awareness, release shame, and bring in the love. That's what I'm doing here. And I'm glad you're with me. I love you. I will see you soon. Hey, I wanted to ask you, I didn't want to interrupt the video earlier. Actually, no, I just didn't think of doing it. But as I mentioned, I am doing this and I am working my off to bring all this free content and to bring awareness. And if you think that there's value in here and if you want to support me, I finally just became a YouTube partner member. And now there's this little icon appearing to say thanks or something like that. It's a heart with the little $sign on it. So if you would like to support me, I would greatly appreciate it. It now appears under all my videos, and I invite you to click on it, show your support if you're moved to do so. Thank you.